There's someone in your life right now, someone draining you, and you know it. You feel it every time they call, every time they need something, every time they pull you into their chaos. But you stay because you're kind, because you care, because walking away feels cruel. But here's what no one tells you. Some people aren't meant to be saved. Some people will take everything you give and still blame you for not giving more. Alan Watts understood this. He saw what most spiritual teachers won't say out loud. Compassion without boundaries is self-destruction. And there are 5 types of people, 5 patterns, 5 energies that will consume your life if you let them. Not because they're evil, but because they're unconscious. And unconsciousness doesn't just hurt itself. It devours everything around it. This isn't about being cold. It's about being wise. Let me show you who to walk away from. Let me tell you something that will change how you see relationships forever. Not everyone deserves access to you. I know that sounds harsh. We've been conditioned to believe that love means giving endlessly. That spirituality means accepting everyone. That being a good person means never saying no. But Alan Watts knew better. He understood that the universe itself has boundaries. The ocean doesn't let itself be drained by the shore. The tree doesn't give fruit to the axe that cuts it down. Nature protects itself, and so should you. Because here's the truth most spiritual teachings won't tell you. Some people are energy vampires, not metaphorically, literally. They enter your life and something inside you starts dying. Your joy fades, your peace disappears, your energy gone, and you tell yourself it's temporary, that they're going through something, that if you just love them harder, give more, stay longer, they'll change, but they don't. They never do, because they're not looking for help. They're looking for a host, someone to carry their pain, absorb their chaos, validate their victim story. And the saddest part, you can't save them. You can't love someone into awareness. You can't sacrifice yourself into their healing. All you can do is lose yourself trying. Alan Watts talked about this. He said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. And trying to fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed, that's like trying to fill a cup with no bottom. No matter how much you pour, it will never be enough. So the question isn't, how do I help them? The question is, why am I still here? What wound inside you believes you have to earn love through suffering? What part of you thinks your worth is measured by how much you can endure? Because that's the real trap. These 5 types of people don't just drain you. They reveal something in you, a pattern, a belief, a wound that says, I am only valuable if I'm needed. And they will exploit that wound, not because they're malicious, but because unconscious people instinctively feed on conscious energy. It's not personal, it's survival. But just because they're surviving doesn't mean you have to sacrifice yourself. Alan Watts said it perfectly. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. And you are under no obligation to stay in relationships that are killing you. So let me show you the 5 types. The 5 energies that will drain every ounce of light from your soul. If you let them, not so you can judge them, but so you can recognize them and walk away. Before there's nothing left of you to save. Think about water for a moment. Water is life. It nourishes, it heals, it gives, but water also knows something we forgot. It flows around obstacles. It doesn't stop to convince the rock to move. It doesn't exhaust itself, trying to change the stone's nature. It simply flows elsewhere, and that's wisdom, not coldness, not cruelty, wisdom. The ability to recognize what can be nurtured and what will only consume you. Because here's what they don't teach you about compassion. Real compassion includes yourself. It's not just about giving. It's about knowing when to stop giving, when to protect your energy, when to say, I love you, but I can't carry you anymore. Alan Watts understood this deeply. He said, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. You can't fix people by diving into their chaos. You can't heal someone by drowning in their pain. All you do is make 2 people lost instead of 1. And yet we try. We see someone suffering and we think, I can help. We see someone broken and we think, I can fix them. We see someone lost and we think, I can be their light. But here's the paradox. The people who need you the most are often the ones who will hurt you the worst. Not because they're evil, but because hurt people hurt people. Unconscious people drain conscious people, and those who refuse to heal will resent anyone who reminds them they could. So they'll take your energy, your time, your peace, your love. And when you have nothing left to give, they'll blame you for abandoning them, even though you gave everything, even though you stayed longer than you should have, even though you sacrificed parts of yourself trying to save them. It will never be enough, because they're not looking for solution. They're looking for someone to blame, someone to carry their burden, someone to make them feel better without them having to change. And that's not a relationship. That's a transaction. You give, they take, you grow, they stay the same, you heal, they stay wounded, and eventually you realize you can't grow with someone who's committed to staying small. You can't evolve with someone who's addicted to their suffering. You can't fly with someone who's in love with the cage. This is the hard truth Alan Watts lived by. You cannot save anyone. You can only love them and let them save themselves. And if they refuse, if they choose unconsciousness over awareness, if they choose chaos over peace, you have to let them go. Not with hatred, not with anger, but with the understanding that some people are not ready, And your job isn't to drag them into the light. Your job is to protect your own, because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't light the way if your flame is extinguished. And these 5 types of people, they are flame killers, not because they mean to be, but because darkness doesn't know how to do anything else except consume. So here's what I'm going to show you. 5 types of people, 5 energies that Alan Watts warned against, 5 patterns that will destroy your peace, drain your soul, and leave you questioning everything. If you don't learn to recognize and walk away, this isn't about labeling people. It's not about judgment. It's about discernment, the ability to see clearly, to recognize toxicity before it poisons you, to understand that not every connection is meant to last, and not every person deserves a place in your life. Some people are lessons, some are blessing, and some are warning. These 5 types, they're warning. Red flags wrapped in familiarity, poison disguised as connect, chaos pretending to be love. And if you've been feeling exhausted, drained for no reason, losing yourself in relationships that take more than they give, sacrificing your peace to keep someone else comfortable, one of these 5 is in your life right now. Maybe it's a friend who only calls when they need something. Maybe it's a partner who takes your love for granted. Maybe it's a family member who's been draining you since childhood. Whoever it is, you already know. You felt it in your gut, that quiet voice that says, this isn't right, this isn't healthy, this is killing me slowly. But you've ignored it because walking away feels wrong, because you've been taught that love means enduring, that loyalty means suffering, that being spiritual means accepting everyone. But Alan Watts would tell you, to have faith is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float. And that's the lesson here. Stop holding on to people who are drowning you. Stop gripping relationships that require you to sink. Stop sacrificing yourself for people who wouldn't do the same. These 5 types will never float with you. They will only pull you under, again and again and again, until you're so deep you forget what the surface even looks like. So I'm going to walk you through them one by one, not so you can fix, not so you can save them, but so you can save yourself, because the most spiritual thing you can do is protect your energy, guard your peace, and refuse to let unconscious people dim your light. Alan Watts spent his life teaching one core truth. You are the universe experiencing itself. And if that's true, then letting toxic people consume you is a betrayal of the universe itself. So let's begin. Let me show you the first type, the one that's easiest to miss, the one that hides behind good intention, the emotional vampire, the person who feeds on your empathy and leaves you with nothing. You know this person? They always have a crisis, always a different problem every week, every day, every conversation. Their life is a never-ending emergency, and somehow you're always the one they call. At first, you feel honored. They trust me. You think they need me. So you show up, you listen, you comfort, you give advice. And for a moment, they seem better. They thank you. They say you're amazing. They say they don't know what they'd do without you. And then nothing changes. A week later, same crisis, different detail. A month later, same pattern, different person to blame. A year later, you realize you've been having the same conversation on repeat, and something inside you breaks, not with anger, with exhaustion, because you finally see it. They don't want solution. They want attention. The emotional vampire doesn't come to you for help. They come for energy, your empathy, your concern, your time. They feed on the emotional labor you provide and give nothing back. Alan Watts said, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. But the emotional vampire refuses to dance. They cling to suffering like it's their identity, because without the crisis, who are they? Without the drama, what would they talk about? Without the chaos, how would they get your attention? So they create it over and over. And you become their emotional support animal, always on call, always available, always ready to drop everything, because they've trained you to believe, if I don't help them, something terrible will happen. But here's the truth. Something terrible is already happening. To you, every time you answer that call, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you absorb their pain, you carry weight that isn't yours. Every time you try to fix what they refuse to heal, you become smaller, dimmer, more exhausted, and they don't even notice, because the emotional vampire isn't looking at you. They're looking at what you can give them, and the moment you stop giving, they'll find someone else. That's how you know. If someone only reaches out when they're in crisis, they don't value you. They use you. And Alan Watts would say, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. Stop trying to fix someone who's in love with being broken. Stop sacrificing your peace for someone who's addicted to chaos. Stop answering every crisis like it's your responsibility. It's not. Their healing is their journey. Their growth is their choice. And if they refuse to take it, that's not your failure. That's their decision. So the next time they call with another emergency, another drama, another I don't know what to do, ask yourself, how many times have we been here before? And if the answer is more than 3, don't answer. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself. And that's not selfish, that's survival. The emotional vampire will drain you dry and then blame you for having nothing left to give. Walk away. before you forget what your own energy feels like. Then there's this one, the person who's always been wrong. Always. Life is happening to them. Never because of them. They're the victim in every story. Every job they lost, someone sabotaged. Every relationship that ended, they were betrayed. Every opportunity they missed, the world was against. And you believe them at first because their pain seems real, their struggles seem valid, and you think they just need support. They just need to see their power. So you encourage them. You remind them of their strength. You show them possibilities, and they nod. They agree. They say, "You're right. I'm going to change. I'm going to try." But they don't. Days pass. Weeks pass, months pass, and nothing changes, except now you're exhausted. Because the perpetual victim doesn't want empowerment. They want validation. Validation that life is unfair, that people are cruel, that they are powerless. Because if they admitted they had power, they'd have to take responsibility. And responsibility is terrifying. It means they can't blame their parents anymore, can't blame their ex, can't blame their boss, can't blame the economy, the government, the universe. It means their life is in their hands, and they'd rather suffer than face that truth. Alan Watts said, "Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun." But the perpetual victim takes everything serious. Every slight is an attack. Every challenge is persecution. Every consequence is injustice, and you become their therapist, their emotional dumpster, the person who listens to the same complaints year after year after year. And here's what breaks you. You start to feel guilty for being happy, for having boundaries, for growing, for healing, because your progress reminds them that they're choosing to stay stuck, and they hate you for it. Not openly, not directly, but you feel it. In the passive-aggressive comment, in the way they dismiss your advice, in how they sabotage every solution you offer, because they don't want solution. They want someone to agree that life is impossible. And when you stop agreeing, they'll call you cold, unsupportive, judgmental, changed. They'll say, "You don't understand what I'm going through." But you do. You understand perfect. You understand they're choosing victimhood over freedom. And no amount of love, support, or wisdom will change someone who's in love with their wound. Alan Watts knew this. He said, "The world is filled with love, and it's your job to receive it." But the perpetual victim blocks love, because love requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires letting go of the story, that they're powerless, so they stay small, they stay hurt, they stay stuck, and they expect you to stay with them. But you can't. Not if you want to grow. Not if you want peace. Not if you want a life that isn't defined by someone else's refusal to heal. So here's what you do. You stop trying to save them. You stop offering advice they won't take. You stop absorbing their pain like it's your responsibility. And you say out loud or in your heart, "I love you, but I can't carry you anymore." Because the perpetual victim will drown you in their story and call it loyalty. Walk away before their victim mentality becomes yours. This one is subtle because they're not obviously toxic. They're friendly, charming, even kind when they need something. But pay attention. Watch the flow of energy. Who always calls, who always asks, who shows up when they need help but disappears when you need them. The taker, and you didn't notice it first because you're a giver. It feels natural to help, to support, to be there. You don't keep score. You don't calculate who owes what. You just love, and that's beautiful. But it's also dangerous because the taker sees your generosity not as love, as availability. They don't value you. They value what you provide, your time, your resources, your emotional labor, and the relationship is built on one foundation: what you can do for them. Alan Watts said, "Advice? I don't have advice. Advice is a form of nostalgia. But here's the advice you need. If a relationship is always one-sided, it's not a relationship. It's exploitation. And the taker is a master at making you feel guilty for noticing. You finally say, "I need something too." And they respond with, "Wow, I thought you were different. I didn't think you kept track. I've been going through so much. I can't believe you're making this about you." And just like that, you're the bad guy for having needs, for wanting reciprocity, for expecting basic respect. So you back down, you apologize. You tell yourself, "Maybe I was being selfish." But you weren't. You were finally being honest. And honesty terrifies the taker, because if you start asking for balance, they'll have to give. And giving, that's not in their nature. They've trained you well, trained you to give without asking, to show up without expectation, to sacrifice without acknowledgement. And when you stop, they won't ask why. They'll just leave and find someone else to take from. That's how you know. That's the test. Stop giving and see who stays. The people who love you will notice. They'll ask, "Are you okay? What's going on? How can I support you?" But the taker? Radio silent, because they were never interested in you, only what you could provide. Alan Watts said, "You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself." But the taker sees you as a resource, a tool, a means to an end, not a person. And once you realize that, everything changes. You stop answering every request. You stop prioritizing their needs over yours. You stop pretending that one-sided relationships are okay, because they're not. And the strangest thing happens. When you stop giving, you start receiving, not from them, from people who actually see you, people who value you, people who give as much as they take. Real relationship, not transactions disguised as connection. So, if you're reading this and there's someone in your life who only shows up when they need something, who disappears when you need them, who takes and takes and takes and makes you feel guilty for finally saying enough, let them go. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with clarity. They were never yours. You were just useful. And the moment you stop being useful, you stop mattering. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's parasitism. And you deserve better. You deserve reciprocity. You deserve to be seen, not just used. The taker will drain you. And never look back, walk away. Before you forget what it feels like to receive, this one will make you question your sanity. Because the projector doesn't attack you for who you are. They attack you for who they are, and they don't even know it. Every accusation is a confession. Every judgment is a mirror. Everything they hate in you is what they refuse to face in themselves. They call you selfish because they can't admit their own selfishness. They call you controlling because they can't see how they manipulate. They call you cold because they've numbed their own emotion. And you defend yourself. You try to prove them wrong. You bend over backwards to show them you're not what they say you are. But it doesn't matter, because they're not actually talking to you. They're talking to themselves, to the parts they've rejected, the shame they've buried, the wounds they refuse to heal, and you've become the screen on which they project their shadow. Alan Watts said, "The menu is not the meal, but the projector can't tell the difference. They see their pain and call it yours. They see their flaws and make them your responsibility. And it's maddening, because no matter what you do, it's never enough. No matter how much you change, they'll find something new to criticize, because the problem was never you. It was always them. And the cruelest part? They make you believe it's your fault. They gaslight you so effectively, you start doubting your own reality. Am I really that selfish? Am I really that difficult? Am I really the problem? No, you're not. You're just the mirror they can't stand to look at, because you reflect back everything they're running from. Your confidence reminds them of their insecurity. Your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Your peace reminds them of their chaos, and they hate you for it. Not consciously. They'd never admit it. But unconsciously, they need you to be the villain. Because if you're not, then they have to look at themselves. And that's too painful. So they twist everything. Your boundaries become meanness. Your honesty becomes cruelty. Your self-care becomes selfishness. And you're left exhausted, trying to defend a version of yourself that doesn't exist, trying to fix a perception that has nothing to do with you. Alan Watts understood projection deeply. He said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You cannot fix how the projector sees you, because they're not seeing you at all. They're seeing their own unhealed wound and calling it your face. So here's what you do. You stop defending yourself. You stop trying to prove anything. You stop absorbing their distorted perception. And you say quietly, firmly, that's not me, that's you. Not out loud, necessarily, but in your heart, where it matters. Because the projector will never take responsibility. They will never admit they're wrong. They will never see you clearly until they're willing to see themselves, and most never will. So you have a choice. Stay and slowly lose yourself, trying to be someone they'll finally accept, or walk away and reclaim your reality. The projector will accuse you of abandoning them, of being the bad person they always said you were. Let them, because their story about you has nothing to do with who you actually are. It's just their pain, looking for a place to land. And you are not that place, not anymore. The projector will make you the enemy. To avoid becoming their own hero, walk away. Before their delusion becomes your prison, this one hurts the most, because they seem like your friend. They celebrate with you. They support you. They say all the right things. But something feels off. You share good news, and there's a pause, a flicker, a subtle shift in their energy. And then, that's great, but yeah, I almost did that too. Must be nice. And you feel it, that strange, hollow feeling, like your joy just made them uncomfortable. Because it did, the unconscious competitor doesn't know they're competing with you. They'd never admit it. They genuinely believe they're happy for you. But watch closely. Every time you rise, they need to remind you they're rising too. You get a promotion, they talk about their job offer. You share a breakthrough, they share a bigger one. You celebrate a win, they redirect the conversation to their struggle. It's never quite about you, not fully, not without them inserting themselves into the narrative. And you start to notice you can't be fully happy around them, because your happiness threatens theirs. Your success feels like their failure. Your growth feels like their stagnation. Not because you're competing, but because they are, and they don't even realize it. Alan Watts said, Zen does not confuse spirituality with thinking about God while one is peeling potatoes. Zen spirituality is just to peel the potatoes. But the unconscious competitor can't just peel the potatoes. They have to peel them better than you, faster, cleaner, with more mindfulness. Because in their world, there's only room for one person to shine. And if you're shining, they feel dim, so they do subtle things. They downplay your achievement. Oh, that's not that hard. Anyone could do that. I thought about doing that, but they diminish you to protect their ego. And you start shrinking. You stop sharing good news. You downplay your win. You hide your growth. Because you've learned, your light makes them uncomfortable. And somewhere along the way, you chose their comfort over your joy. But here's the truth Alan Watts would tell you. A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. so he loses touch with reality and lives in a world of illusion. The unconscious competitor lives in an illusion, the illusion of scarcity, that there's not enough success to go around, not enough love, not enough recognition, not enough worthiness, so they hoard it, they guard it, and they unconsciously sabotage anyone who threatens their position, including you. They'll never attack you direct, but they'll plant seeds of doubt. Are you sure you're ready for that? I just don't want you to be disappointed. I mean, it's great, but have you thought about disguised as concern, delivered as care? But it's not. It's fear. Their fear that your success proves their inadequacy, that your courage highlights their cowardice, that your authenticity reveals their pretense. And instead of dealing with that, they try to keep you small, not overtly, just enough to stay ahead, just enough to maintain the balance, where they feel secure and you feel stuck. So here's what you do. You stop dimming your light. You stop hiding your joy. You stop apologizing for your growth. And you accept. Not everyone can celebrate. Some people are too threatened, too wounded, too stuck in their own comparison to genuinely be happy for you. And that's not your problem. That's there. Alan Watts said, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. But the unconscious competitor refuses to dance. They want you to sit down so they don't feel left behind. Don't. Keep dancing, keep growing, keep shining, and let them stay behind, because the people meant for you will never feel threatened by your light. They'll bring their own, and together you'll illuminate everything. The unconscious competitor will drain your joy and call it friendship. Walk away before you forget what your own light looks like. So here's what Alan Watts knew, and what most spiritual teachers won't tell you. Compassion without discernment is self-destruction. Love without boundaries is martyrdom, and giving endlessly to people who only take is not noble, it's unconscious. These 5 types, the emotional vampire, the perpetual victim, the taker, the projector, the unconscious competitor, they're not evil, they're not monsters, they're just asleep, living in patterns they don't see, repeating cycles they don't question, draining people they claim to love, because they don't know how to fill themselves. And you can't wake them. You can't love them into awareness. You can't sacrifice yourself into their healing. All you can do is protect your light. Because here's the ultimate truth. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot guide others if you're lost. You cannot heal the world if you're broken. Your energy is sacred. Your peace is sacred. Your time, your love, your presence, sacred. And not everyone deserves access to it. Alan Watts spent his life teaching one profound lesson. You are the universe experiencing itself. Think about that. You are not separate from existence. You are a unique expression of the whole, a wave in the infinite ocean. And every moment you spend with people who drain you is a moment the universe is being diminished, not expanded, not honored, not celebrated. So when you walk away from toxic people, you're not being selfish. You're being sacred. You're honoring the divine within you, the light that's meant to shine, the love that's meant to flow freely. Not be damned by people who only know how to take. Watts also said, no valid plans for the future can be made by those who have no capacity for living now. And these 5 types, they don't live now. They live in the past, replaying wounds. They live in fantasy, expecting you to fix them. They live in fear, competing with your joy. But you're awake, you're here, you're present. And presence is the most powerful thing you possess. Don't waste it on people who are committed to unconsciousness, not because you don't care, but because you finally care enough about yourself, about your peace, about your purpose, about the life you're meant to live, not the life you're meant to sacrifice. So let them go with love, with compassion, with understanding. But let them go, because you cannot save anyone. You can only save yourself. And sometimes saving yourself means walking away from people you love, people you've known for years, people who once meant everything. And that's okay, because the ones who are meant to stay will rise with you. The ones who can't were only meant to teach you this. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone can walk your path. And protecting your peace is the most spiritual thing you'll ever do.